This is Monocle on Design, a show where we discuss everything from architecture and craft to furniture and fashion. I'm Nick Manise. On today's program, we visit Murano to learn about glass production on the island today. And we visit northern Italy to reflect on the outstanding works on show at the Lake Como Design Festival. Plus, what are the challenges of designing bespoke interiors fit for the sky? We meet the founder of luxury brand Unique Aircraft. All that coming up on Monocle on Design. The production of glass has been associated with the Venice Lagoon for nearly a millennium. Companies that make glass line the main canal on the island of Murano, where furnaces roar deep at the back of workshops. Barovier and Toso is one such company famed for making chandeliers exported worldwide. We join Monocle's David Pleasant as he boards a water taxi for a tour from Barovier and Toso's Daniela Sarocco.
They've always been on the island, and the main reason which they were transferred from Venice to Murano was the danger of fires. But the second reason, which was very important as well, was that the government wanted to keep the secrets of the production of the glass. Since it was a kind of alchemy, transforming the sand, which is a very poor and raw material, into this kind of jewels, this transformation was feel like really a kind of magical process. They wanted to keep these secrets hidden from the rest of the world. So the best way was to keep all the people on the island and seclude them there. In that period, especially in the medieval time, there was possibility only for the masters to leave the island without a special permit.
As our guide Daniela says, there has always been a veil of secrecy around glassmaking here in Murano. Exactly like the material that is glass itself, this ancient craft tradition, having survived hundreds of years, is strong and incredibly versatile, and yet it remains very fragile, and that perhaps explains all the trade secrets. Now, in its 8th edition, the Venice Glass Week is an international festival that aims to strengthen the art and design of glass. Dozens of exhibitions and events in factories, furnaces, galleries and workshops around the islands of Venice and Murano, as well as on what Venetians call terraferma, or dry land, in the city of Mestre. Back at the Barovier and Toso factory and trying to stand not too close to the furnaces that reach temperatures of 1,400 degrees Celsius, our guide continues to give some company secrets away.
A characteristic of the Venetian glass, we call it glass, but actually the real name would be Venetian crystal. This was the name given by Angelo Barovier, so a member of the Barovier family, in the mid-15th century. It was 1450 when he invented the transparent glass with a recipe that we still use today. And the characteristic is that it has no lead inside. This is the same for all the Murano glass. So all the Murano glass does not contain lead. This is a choice because lead is a metal that usually is added to the mixture to obtain a very transparent and bright and sparkling glass. The more you add lead to a mixture, the more you have a transparent and blinging glass. But the problem is that when you have lead, so a metal inside a mixture, and you're trying to mold it, the molten glass goes quicker to room temperature than a glass that does not contain a metal. So Angelo Barovier wanted to obtain very complicated decorations that take seconds to be molded. So this is why he invented a recipe with no lead inside.
So it's slower to dry?
Yeah, slower means a couple of seconds.
but you can mold it?
Yes, this is why you see, especially in the traditional Venetian chandeliers, all the flowers, all the leaves and all the decorations, which would be not possible if you have a glass with lead.
As well as opening up the once secretive world of glassmaking, the Venice Glass Week is also helping put this hard-to-place craft on the map. In Venice, and particularly at the furnaces and workshops of Murano, it quickly becomes apparent that you can do virtually anything with glass when it comes to form and technique. And although famed for its tableware and chandeliers, Venice glass has often been kept out of or apart from the world of art, which is ironic in the home of the world's oldest and most important art festival, the Biennale. One man, however, is trying to change that.
The idea is to bring attention to the fact that the Biennale stopped showing glass in 1972, and we want it back. Well, I'm David Landau. I am the founder with my wife, Marie-Rose Cahan, of the Stanza del Vetro. I also been involved in glass since I bought a house in Venice 13 years ago, and so I invented the Venice Glass Week.
David Landau is showing us around the Stanze del Vetro, the glass rooms, a museum he founded on the island of San Giorgio Maggiore, across the water from the Doge's Palace on the Piazza San Marco. The current exhibition is Murano Glass and the Venice Biennale, 1912 to 1930. Curated by Marino Barovier, the show highlights just how much beautifully designed glass objects there once was at the Art Biennale.
The situation with glass has also changed. It's not only the glass made in Murano by the traditional factories for table glass and so on, but there is also the glass made by artists, by Ai Weiwei and Thomas Schutter and so on. They make beautiful sculptures in glass. And more Muranese furnaces actually make works of art in glass. And why not show those? What's wrong with those? If it was a piece of bronze, they would immediately show it in the Biennale, but because it's a piece of glass... No.
Is it almost too easy? Because it's right here. There's this kind of wanting to reach out to the world. So
we say strangers everywhere, foreigners everywhere, except Muranese. If they're Muranese, they're not allowed in Venice, in the Biennale, whereas everybody else from the entire world is welcome, which is right and proper. The Muranese are excluded. So this cycle of exhibitions, in a way, is to bring attention to this problem, and also a way of rediscovering things that were completely lost.
One furnace that is showing Murano glass's increasing presence within the artistic field is Berengo. As well as executing enormous glass works for Chinese activist artist Ai Weiwei, Berengo are collaborating with a whole roster of big art names. Marco Berengo tells me more.
I'm sure you saw his work. He's a Spanish artist called Jaume Plensa from Barcelona. And normally he makes these faces like 20 meters high, not in glass, in another material, but it's more than 12 years we collaborate together. And the characteristic of these pieces is that everybody thinks that are marble. But this is glass. It's a very special color we call seta, that means silk, and they are incredible.
I'm Sandrine Welter. I live in Venice, where I found my muse, the city, the Serenissima, and also another big love of my life, glass. And so it's a font of inspiration for me in my practice as a writer and a curator. And in that capacity, I work together with Berengo Studio. There's a long-standing history of glass, mainly, however, functional purposes, so chandeliers, chalices, and in the 50s, for the very first time in collaborations between the Venetian Egidio Costantini and artists such as Pablo Picasso, Max Ernst, Jean Arbre, that glass was used as a medium for artistic expression. And now Berengo truly pushes the boundaries of what is possible in glass, very often blurring the lines where one looks at the sculpture and thinks, oh my goodness, that has to be marble. And only slightly later one finds out, oh my goodness, no, it's not, it's glass. It's like a chameleon almost, glass. In that sense, the material that also most represents Venice, this hybrid creature between the land and the sea, half liquid, half solid, those many shades. Glass only comes to life through light. Glass essentially is light.
That was Sandrine Welter at the Berengo glass furnace in Murano, describing some of the qualities of glass that inspire her as a writer and curator. And I love how she equates glass with Venice itself, solid and liquid at the same time. This material is just so multifaceted, and it still evades categorization. So much of the glass that is on show at Venice Glass Week could be, and maybe should be, looked at as both an art and design object. At the Accademia Gallery, which houses many treasures of the Venetian Renaissance, the pièce de résistance of Venice Glass Week is laid out in front of a gargantuan oil painting depicting the Last Supper by Paolo Veronese. It is a table set with hundreds of glass design pieces, all from Murano. Chalices and salt cellars, wine flutes and decanters, even glass fruits and vegetables adorn the tableware-themed exhibition curated by Korean researcher Sung Moon Cho. The colour and variety is extraordinary, and it's the perfect setting to ask David Landau his perspectives on whether to look at glass through the lens of art or design.
It's a construct of our imagination, of that of the designer, of that of the user, of that of the critic. No, this is art, this is design. But in reality, the border between them is always grey, and one can go from one to the other very easily. And if you put them in the right context, if you take one of the glasses down the table in the room next door and you put it on a plinth and you lit it in a particular way and you put it in a dark room and you say, this is a great glass by Laura di Santillana, it is a great work of art by Laura di Santillana. She may be perceived as a designer of glass, but she, in reality, she was a great sculptor. And so if you put it in the right context, it's not going to be a statue of a person, it's not going to be an abstract piece of work, but it's maybe something you can drink from, but it is a great work of art.
Once secretive furnaces that would pass their know-how down through generations of glassblowers exclusively on the island of Murano have either changed with the times or ceased to exist. Only 200 or 300 of these skilled artisans still exist. And as well as the rising energy costs, the furnaces are only turned off once a year in August, the other big worry has been the lack of young people entering the trade. The last word, therefore, should come from someone who actually makes glass, with the power of his hands, arms, and of course, lungs. Glassblowing being the most physical craft imaginable. Maestro Simone Giordano has worked at the Barovier and Toso factory for no less than 40 years.
If you take a look at this world of glassblowing, it's a very special world. It gives you great satisfaction, especially on a personal level. These are things you achieve over the years, and it's true. It requires significant sacrifice. It requires professionalism. But in my opinion, young people are the future. And that's the most important thing. We need to work on that. We need to encourage and offer young people certain opportunities in glassmaking. This is an art that I sincerely hope will never be lost. I truly hope that with all my heart, because for us, it's a great joy.
From chandeliers to chalices, and from contemporary art to collectible design, maestros like Simone Giordano at Barovier and Toso have for generations been putting their remarkable skill to all manner of beautiful objects. Whether it's made to be used or more likely to be marvelled at, glass and the business of making it by hand remains a part of Venetian culture that is as strong as it is fragile. For Monocle in Venice, I'm David Pleasant.
How long do you think it would take you to travel the world to hear from the most perceptive and relevant speakers on the global news agenda? To mix that up with a trip to visit the business people benchmarking best practice in media, retail and hospitality. And to make time, too, to delve into a rich mix of great design stories and rich cultural discoveries. Well, you can do all of this in just 60 minutes each week by tuning in to The Curator, a whistle-stop tour of the best of the last 7 days on Monocle Radio. Subscribe and download the show now or listen every weekend on Monocle Radio.
Como might be famous for its sparkling lake, but what about the arts? The Lake Como Design Festival looks to make people appreciate the area for more diverse reasons. Since 2018, Wonder Lake, the association that runs the festival, has opened up 12 buildings to the public and showcased the work of some 400 designers, architects and artists. Its 6th iteration recently wrapped up, and Monocle's Ed Stocker went along. He sent us this report.
Early autumn in Lake Como, and the seaplanes are doing, quite literally, a roaring trade. Every few minutes one takes off from the water, taking tourists up into the sky for sweeping panoramic views. Visitors may flock to Como for a slice of the Bella Vita, but there's a lot more to the area than the admittedly impressive views, which is where Wonder Lake Como comes in, an organisation that looks to promote Lake Como through everything from architecture to art. It's also the force behind the Lake Como Design Festival, which celebrated its 6th edition this September. Its aim, get people to experience a different side to Como.
And so the format is very simple, just to make people discover places inaccessible.
Francesca Pandelli is the festival's managing director.
We open buildings, monuments and everything, and inside we set up pieces of art and design and photography and everything based on the theme of the year.
The theme this year is lightness.
One of the amazing things about this festival are the incredible venues around Como. We're standing in a rather echoey church, originally from the 12th century, now deconsecrated. And I'm looking up at incredible Baroque murals on the ceiling, and it's hosting the Lightness on Paper exhibition.
The Lightness of Paper exhibition is intimate and beautiful, and with renowned local publishing house Litos. Billed as a graphic exploration, the festival commissioned several artists, designers and architects, including Mario Botta and Michele De Lucchi, to produce works using printing techniques ranging from stone lithography to etching on a zinc plate to linoleum block printing. And then there's something completely different. An installation from Latvian couple Erlands and Bye Bye and their 8 Days of Lightness exhibition.
Nice to meet you.
They welcome me to their zen-like space in loose clothing and bare feet. Part performance, part design, part meditation, Erlands moves a glass and metal object above and around his head and body, controlling his breathing as he does it. The beautiful pieces, collectible items known as EB weight lights, which have LEDs built into them, are designed to be both home furnishings and training objects. But perhaps the highlight of the 2024 edition takes place in and around the Villa del Grumello. Down in the villa's dock, where boats are moored and the water laps against the walls, a video installation looks at the waterside architectural legacy of the area. Inside the villa, more works explore the idea of lightness. The most ambitious part is the contemporary design selection dotted around 15 hectares of parkland above the villa.
And I get lost.
You get lost,
I get lost, which is one of the beautiful experiences of this place. My name is Giovanna Massoni. I'm the curator of the Contemporary Design Selection within Lake Como Design Festival. The lack of a direct commercial aim is very important because Of course, everybody is expecting to having invested in something that is going to give fruits, but it's not the priority. I have the feeling.
Massoni gets to the heart of what makes a festival like this special, so near Milan, and yet another world.
Here I think we are much more relaxed and going more in depth in what we are doing. All designers can know more about the other, and this is a pedagogical moment where those possibility of exchanging ideas and visions and also technical skills and etc. it's really enriching. So it's kind of summer camp, knowing that they are not all the same age, and this is wonderful. Here in Como, and it's very clear to me, there is space and time for designers who are independent.
The idea of space and time, of room to breathe, is not just aimed at the public coming to visit. It's also for the designers themselves.
Where are we heading?
Marie-Josée d'Aprile.
Uh-huh.
She lives in Como since a few years.
This is a specific installation I created for the festival when they asked me to think about lightness. I created first the dishes, and the dishes are made with a white clay, very white. And on each dishes I painted with blue engos, which is a based clay painting color. And the design that is painted on each and every plate is an ensemble of archetypal vases, jugs, pots. I have to say that one of the sources of inspiration is the movement of the water, the lake. And interestingly enough, the colors white and blue have come very recently in my work, since I'm living here, in fact. So they are very new colors, and also the shades of green, which I think are direct inspiration. So the landscape, beautiful landscape we are surrounded by.
Jean-François Dor, a designer from Belgium exhibiting in a tiny chapel, is another one drawing inspiration from the Lake Como model. He's been relishing the fact that exhibiting designers have been housed together in a building facing the lake.
Officially, it's not a residency. You come in a place and they ask you to do a specific work or anyway to deliver something at the end. But in my mind, I say, okay, this is the time to take some more book, to sit somewhere in the park, to read, to breathe in another way, having discussion and fun and visiting other designers and so on.
Meditative and collaborative it may be, but preparations for next year are already in full swing, according to Managing Director Prandelli, who won't be drawn too much on 2025, despite Monocle's probing.
What I can tell you is that it will be a different theme, not so related with design, but very open to all the kind of arts.
And then the seaplanes are back. Their drone a good excuse for Prandelli to leave us with that tantalising and a little cryptic snippet for what's to come. For Monocle at the Lake Como Design Festival, I'm Ed Stocker.
My thanks to Monocle's Ed Stocker there. We'll be right back after this. Finally on today's show, we take to the skies and hear from the founder of Unique Aircraft. Led by Varja Borges, the firm designs the interiors for all kinds of aircraft, from smaller business jets to large Boeing Airbus-type planes for private clients, governments and heads of state. Varja began by sharing how she creates a nice environment and atmosphere despite tough engineering constraints.
One of the key factors is definitely to be well aware of all these regulations and certification constraints. They do have a big impact on the interior, and you definitely need to know and need to take them into account so that you can work around that to build still a functional, nice ambiance in the interior of the aircraft. That's definitely the experience and the knowledge you grow throughout several projects, education, sometimes a try and error. Definitely my experience I do build my nowadays knowledge on.
Tell us about the requirements for a nice environment and atmosphere in the air. What can you work with? What sort of levers can you pull to make something nice?
I mean, we all do feel our environment. It's kind of does have an impact. Noise does have an impact. Colors do have an impact. The touch and feel does have an impact. Light has an impact to our well-being. We all know that. These are definitely the parameters we can work with to create like a full experience ambience in the aircraft. What I'm really focused on is to have a full fluent functionality, logical built-in of items, of features, of the space in the rooms. We are always limited in space and we do have so much to put into the cabin. Sometimes it's really like a Tetris game that you really get everything in there, but also in a way that it's practical, easy to use, user-friendly. That entire customer experience in the cabin. The ranges of the aircraft do extend. People do travel like over 10 hours easily on their planes. It needs to be really comfortable and well supportive.
So then how do you make it comfortable? Is it having generously sized bathrooms? Is it having banquettes and sofas built in? What are some of the things you can do, I guess, to make those longer journeys comfortable?
We do talk always about two sizes of aircraft. One are the business jets, which are all the very well-known brands, like Gulfstream, like Falcon, Bombardier, Embraer. They do have kind of a standard configuration, which are comfortable for travel. But the aircraft types I'm working on and sizes I'm working on are the bigger ones, like Airbus and Boeing, single aisle and twin aisle. There, your possibilities are far more flexible in space because starting from around 80 square meters up to 300, there is a lot of space you can play around with. Mostly we do have like a really large main lounge area, which includes a sofa, relaxing area for TV watching or just sitting around having coffee, and then a dining area. We always do have a bedroom, most probably like a master ensuite bedroom, and sometimes additionally guest bedrooms with an extra lavatory. For aircraft missions with an extended range, we would need an extra large crew rest for more pilots. But depending on what is the mission of the aircraft, we are changing the configuration, but these are the main areas we do build in.
What's most important when designing an aircraft's interior? Is it materiality? Is it lighting? How do you ensure that you create spaces that serve the people that are going on these missions, whether they're 3 hours or 10 hours?
I'm a big fan of colors and materials, so touch and feel, because I think that's really something which kind of stimulate your senses. But then light is a very important part to it as well, because the wrong lights really can bother you or even cause headache. If you play around with the light, you can really create a cozy atmosphere, which is more relaxing, or like with a very neutral light, a very focused atmosphere so that you can work, or you can use that a lot to change the functionality of the aircraft as well, or of the space in regards of what you need at the moment. I'm very much into creating really the specific space for that person, for that requirements, for the needs. Very big in background study, so I'm always taking into account the area or the region the client does come from, or to weave that a little bit into the design or also in the color.
That was Varja Burgis, founder of Unique Aircraft. And that's all for today's show. For more design stories, listen to our 5-minute midweek bonus show, Monocle on Design Extra, which airs on Thursdays. And if you enjoy print, then do pick up a copy of Monocle magazine as well. It's on all good newsstands now. Today's episode was produced and edited by Maylee Evans, with assistance from Steph Chungu. I'm Nick Manise, and you can reach me on nm@monocle.com. Thanks for listening.